It was a Friday, and I came home from school, and I went upstairs to put my backpack down, and I wanted to change, and I just got a big headache out of nowhere. It was the worst headache of my life.
She walked downstairs and was crying and said, I have a really bad headache, and my neck and my shoulders hurt. I think you need to call the doctor. And as soon as she sat down on the couch, she fell asleep. And I thought, okay, this is not a normal headache. We'll just go to urgent care. And I went to wake Ricki Rae up to say, let's get in the car, and she started vomiting. He called 911, and she was just vomiting profusely.
And one of the paramedics said, we're gonna take you to the hospital, let's get changed. And I was trying to change into a new shirt, and I couldn't lift the left side of my body. And that's the last thing I remember.
Donnie's talking to the lady on 911, and she said, tell Ricki Rae to smile. And she smiled, and only half of her face moved. And Donnie goes, she's having a stroke. And at that moment, I still couldn't wrap my mind around like what a stroke was, because you only think of your grandma or your grandpa having a stroke, not your 15-year-old daughter. It just felt like time was standing still, and I couldn't grasp the gravity of the situation. Got her into the ambulance, and things started going south very quickly. The paramedics said, we're losing her. We can't take her to the local hospital. We have to take her to Loma Linda. Call Loma Linda.
I was just putting my daughter to sleep when I got the phone call. Ricki came in with a ruptured aneurysm, which means that one of her blood vessels in her head spontaneously started bleeding. And clearly there was a lot of pressure in her head. She was pretty rapidly deteriorating neurologically. When it comes to a stroke, every second counts. As every minute that goes by, there's a chance that you could have brain cells that are irreversibly damaged.
The paramedics were very calm in telling me that it was going to be a very chaotic scene and that I would need to stay calm. And I remember that we pulled up to Loma Linda and they got Ricki Rae out, and it was exactly the way they said. A large team of doctors and nurses came. And I felt like I was standing in the middle of a reality TV show. And they did a CT scan. He turned the screen and we could see a large mass of blood around her brain. And he said, two things were gonna happen. We were gonna open her up and we're going to force her brain to stop bleeding, which would cause severe damage, or we're gonna lose her during surgery. And I remember the look in his eyes. And at that moment, then I knew, like, okay, like my life was never gonna be the same. We said goodbye to Ricki Rae, and I remember kissing her and saying, please don't leave me, not yet. We have not had enough time.
Hemorrhagic strokes in otherwise healthy children are extremely rare, extremely rare. It's kind of like blowing a tire at highway speeds. You know, just the force of the rupture of the artery is enough to sort of make you lose consciousness. We emergently took her to the operating room and removed a large portion of the skull on that side of the head.
And I remember all of our family came, and Donnie and I, we sat in the waiting room while Ricki Rae was in surgery, and I believe it was at 2:30 in the morning when we met Dr. Robeson for the first time. And the first thing we said to him was, is she alive? Just please tell us she's alive.
Fortunately, because she was young and because we were able to treat her very quickly before any additional damage had occurred, her brain was able to immediately start rewiring itself and sort of working around that area that had been damaged.
I woke up probably about a week or two later, and I was more conscious. I asked if I had had a stroke, I guess because I could hear everything around me, but I was intubated, I couldn't talk. I've had to relearn everything. The left side of my body was paralyzed. It was definitely difficult, and it sucked because I wasn't the same as I was before. Everybody thought that I was gonna be just a vegetable. Once they put my bone flap back on, my leg started moving.
Ricki Rae is moving her leg. For the first time, she just discovered that it's moving. Look at that.
I didn't have full control over it. It was really hard. And then my arm started moving.
Look at that. Oh my God.
And now we're gonna bring it in like this. And I want you to help bring the cup towards the middle. Yeah, there you go.
And I was like, okay, like I'm gonna go back to normal. And then
Let's focus on. They're gonna help you.
You're okay.
Okay, just keep
Okay.
breathing.
You're okay.
Okay.
Keep breathing. Keep breathing. It's okay.
and then I got meningitis.
It looked the same.
Look the same. Okay.
Kind of like she's gonna pass out a little bit. But then she had a lot of vomiting last night.
And I don't remember that at all. I remember Thanksgiving Day in the ICU, and that's it.
But we're gonna get to the bottom of this. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Christine.
She was almost ready to come home. She was up, she was walking a little bit with some assistance, and then she started getting a fever and she started getting really sick. And that infection was really bad. We were really scared because all of a sudden we thought we might lose her again. We even asked the doctor, so we said, are we losing her? We feel like we're losing her. And the doctor just said, no, there's ups and downs and we're fixing the problem. The highs and the lows, there are a lot of them.
When I first met Ricki, she was in a coma. And so the only Ricki I knew was the Ricki that her parents told me about. And so it always is amazing to see a patient who initially I only know in their worst circumstances slowly reemerge, and their personality and all of their quirks and humor slowly start to reemerge. And with Ricki, I could tell early on she was very discouraged. It's hard to wake up one day and find things that used to come easily not being easy anymore.
I still can't like tie my shoes or like button my pants or like things like that.
It takes an enormous amount of resolve and stamina to go through the rehab process. Not just the neurologic recovery, but there's also, an emotional and psychological component to it too. Some kids, it takes months for them to get to the point where they're walking or talking again, but Ricki, it happened before she'd even left the hospital.
Can I get out of here? We're excited to get to rehab and hopefully get home before Christmas.
It's the last stop before we bring her home, and
Yeah.
we are ready to bring her home. She's ready to come home.
You ready, sister? I know, baby, I know. This is the last stop before we go home. And remember who did all of the work. You did. And you never forget that.
1, 2. Hopefully we don't have to spend, maybe like 10 days there, 2 weeks maybe.
We are moving on to the next chapter.
There.
Thank you. She had so many nurses who grew to love her. They would come and see us when it wasn't their shift and say, I just want you to know the first thing I did was check on Ricki Rae to make sure she was okay. And that felt really good to know that we weren't alone in a situation where I felt very alone.
Everybody was great, the nurses and the doctors, they were all amazing, but I really loved my physical and my occupational therapists, Christine and Victoria. They were the best. They were my favorite part of the day.
And particularly, I'm looking forward to seeing Ricki being Ricki again, and not being in a hospital, not being a patient, but just being Ricki.
I get to go home on Thursday.
Yep, is what you work so hard for. Getting to bring Ricki Rae home on especially Christmas Eve was like the biggest miracle, the best Christmas our family has ever experienced.
I'm just really excited, and I'm happy because no more hospitals, and I get to sleep in my own bed.
We'll see you later. Thank you. Bye, Ricki. Take care, okay?
I remember that it was raining that day. I was most excited for her to finally get to see her sisters. And because Ricki Rae missed our dog Pepper more than anything, getting to bring her in and getting her to see Pepper.
Oh my goodness, look who's home. Hi.
It was overwhelming.
Wait, Ricki Rae, I have a present for you too.
Oh, you do?
Yes, look.
Christmas, my mom got me a picture of a brain with some roses on it, and it really meant a lot because, my brain was very damaged, and my mom told me that my brain was pretty and that it was okay. So that was a lot.
Yes.
I missed you. No kisses. No thank you.
And then Ricki Rae didn't know it, but because nobody could come and see her, we had planned an outdoor visit the next morning for everyone, all of our family and friends. We even had strangers who were praying for us who had never met Ricki Rae come to our home. It's indescribable. Her best friend, her dad is a police officer, so he gathered up all of the police officers in our community, and they had a parade for Ricki Rae and came down our street with their sirens on. And it was just a great celebration of all of the hard work and all of the prayers and all of the energy that everybody put forward to see Ricki Rae come home. It really was something special.
Yeah.
We realize that not every family has the outcome that we've been given, and we are not taking it for granted at all.
We're fortunate here, at Loma Linda to be a level 1 trauma center. We're one of the only children's hospitals in the Western United States actually that has a 24-hour-a-day stroke team. And there's an enormous amount of resources that are required to do that. I consider it a privilege to be able to be a part of that mission.
She's home and, she's not back to her normal self yet, but she's working on it.
Being in my room with all my stuff and like my posters and being able to wear my clothes and not a hospital gown. I was able to go dress shopping for the gala, and I was able to walk around the whole store, and I only sat down in the dressing room, and that was it. I'm doing everything by myself except tying my shoes. So I'm good to go.
People say I'm a strong person, but I just think I'm a mom. And I think I would do what any mom or that Donnie would do what any dad would need to do to make sure their daughter got the best care that she got and that ultimately got to bring her home healthy. And I will be forever grateful for Dr. Robinson and his team. Because you know that it happens to other people, you just don't know that it happens to you until it happens to you. And without Loma Linda, I really believe that our daughter would not be here today.